Welcome to the Coming Home Well podcast, the show that educates, supports, and advocates for the veteran community. Your host, Dr. Tyler Piron, U.S. Army retired, will bring you exciting conversations with amazing guests about resources, research, and military history, all geared to helping our warriors to come home well. Here's your host, Dr. Tyler Piron.
Welcome back to Coming Home Well. I'm your host, Dr. Tyler Piron, and today we're going to talk with a great organization that is doing some fantastic work for our families of veterans. And you're going to like, well, Tyler, we've talked about a lot of families and a lot of organizations. This one is, I don't even know how they're like not at the tip of the tongue of most of our veterans organizations, because they are doing some fantastic work. I think that they're like super stealthy, but they're also everywhere. So I don't know how that works. I'm not a genius like that, but I found out about them and I have learned more and more. And I have become so impressed that I was like, we have to get them on the show. We have to talk about the great work that they're doing for the families of veterans. And it's all about scholarships and training opportunities and all the things to make things happen. And they are doing some fantastic work. I don't want to steal their thunder. So we have Colonel Nick Nichols. He's a retired Air Force F-16 pilot. Now, he isn't just one of those guys who flies around and does like refueling. He's an F-16 pilot, 7 combat tours, Afghanistan and Iraq. And he was a commander. He's done a lot of those type of command things. But he comes from a military service. His father was killed when he was 15 years old. He followed in the footsteps and has become a F-16 pilot, 30 years in the Air Force, which is a long time, as we all know. But soon as he retired, almost days later, he joined Folds of Honor, which is the organization we're going to talk about today. He is the Chief Growth Officer for Folds of Honor. He's really got this great story, but we're also going to talk about Folds of Honor because they are doing some fantastic stuff. Colonel Nick, thank you so much for joining us on Coming Home Well.
Thank you so much for having us on. It is an honor and a big salute to your audience out there today.
I really appreciate all the things that Folds of Honor does. But let's start. What exactly does Folds of Honor do?
Tyler, we provide educational scholarships to the spouses and kids of military members who have either been killed or disabled while serving the cause of freedom. And we just sent out 9,070 scholarship awards to the next 2022-2023 class. And this is anybody from kindergarten going on to maybe even get their PhD or trade schools, technical schools, or in all those things. And in short 14 years, we have put out nearly 200 million in scholarships. And that's, educational impact out there in our school systems. And that equates to about 44,000 recipients, which is absolutely amazing.
That is beyond the scope. I'm not a math guy. I've done tons of statistics, but 44,000 people, $200 million. That's like $5,000 a pop. That is not chump change.
No, and that's our standard scholarship. We strive to give every kiddo or every spouse $5,000 per school year, but we also strive to give everybody something. It's not just, giving money for school, that type of thing. We want these families to know that you are both seen and you are heard. And we want to come alongside you, to use a fighter pilot term, as your wingman in this walk of life and do anything that we can to help achieve your educational dreams.
$200 million of scholarships. I don't know how you guys aren't on the news like every other day, because that is absolutely astounding. Because I've been in the veteran community a long time. I've talked to a lot of organizations, and it was only happenstance that I stumbled across you guys. You guys must be doing something really well and kind of, hitting those families that need it the most and not just sort of broad blasting it everywhere. I take that as a sign of humility.
It is, I think for us, is along this walk of life, and I think you would say the same thing too, based upon your military service. The neat thing is, at the end of 30 years, I got to come home. right? And there's so many of the families that we serve that did not. And, our CEO, Lieutenant Colonel Dan Rooney, and I take very, very seriously the fact that we get to wake up each and every day and be with our families. Some of our brothers and sisters were not that fortunate. And there's a lot of families out there that are hurting. And for us, it is more about these families. That's the real return on investment out there. Yes, of course, we want people to know about us and donate and get in the fight with us and help these families. But, for us, it's not about notoriety or anything else. If nobody ever knew my name, that would be just fine. I want them to hear the stories of these families. And I want them to know that they're not just having an impact with these families, they're creating generational impact. Realize that last year we had 700 kids go to college were first generation college students. That's unbelievable. That's not just change for that kid. That is generational change for their children and their children's children, and changes the entire scope of their life. And the number one thing that our recipients will tell you, it's not, hey, thank you for the money, thank you for the scholarship. It's thank you for, caring. Thank you for being, you heard us. And the stories of their hero dads and their hero moms will resonate in history because they have a platform to talk about it now. And it's very special. And that is what gets me up early every morning and want to be in the fight to ensure that we do not leave a single military family behind on the field of battle. So
how in the world did this organization get started? I mean, it is going gangbusters. I mean, if $200 million is not chump change, that's really hard work to raise money. But take us back. How did this get started?
Right. So my very good friend and our CEO, Lieutenant Colonel Dan Rooney, he and I flew F-16s together. So that's how we first met. And he had just got back from a combat tour in 2005, and late in 2005 and early 2006, he found himself on a United flight headed to Grand Rapids, Michigan. As he entered the airplane, he noticed in first class there was a Army corporal dressed in his dressed Army greens, and Dan kind of noticed him as he went by, and said, obviously somebody gave him his first class seat or something. He just made note of it as he went back. Well, little did Dan know, as they landed in Grand Rapids, the captain makes an announcement and says, "Hey, we have a hero on board." Well, Dan's mind goes, to the young soldier that he saw sitting in first class. Well, that's not who the captain was talking about. They were carrying the remains of this young soldier's twin brother home. He was accompanying his brother the 6,000 miles home. And Dan happened to be on the cargo side, so he was able to see the flag dread cock and inch down. And at the bottom of that cargo hold was a wife and a young 4-year-old. And Dan looked at that kid and he's like, oh my God, what is going to happen to him? What's his future going to look like? And in that moment, he knew he needed to do something. And, education is one of those things that's a lasting bridge to success, equality, and all those things. And that birthed in his mind the Folds of Honor. And pretty neat story, not just on, his motivation for it, but this guy started it above his garage in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, fighter pilot with no money, no influence, no nothing, but he just knew he needed to do something. And it has created this massive platform to reach out to these military families and not just say, hey, sorry for your loss or sorry for the injury of your service member, but to actually be able to do something. And it's a point in time where sacrifice can actually meet hope, and provide something to these families that is super special. And if you look at the short 14 years there, it is or 15 years, it is unbelievable. 100 or 200, almost $200 million out the door and almost 44,000 scholarships is just unreal. So it's a blessing. Clearly, God has his hands in this mission. We couldn't do this on our own, and just keeps putting people and companies and golf courses and all the things in our place so we can continue to raise this kind of money and support these families.
Colonel Nick, you buried the lead of that story. Who was the very first recipient of the Folds of Honor scholarship?
That would have been Corporal Brad Buckland's son.
And that was the individual that was on the plane who had been passed.
Yes. Yep. That's correct.
That is just amazing. Just seeing that, knowing it, and then chasing after that dream years later, just to make sure that, that young man, I guess now, is being recognized because of the sacrifices and the loss that so many have experienced.
Yeah, that's right. And that's I'm glad you brought that up too, because that's the important part right there is knowing these families' names, knowing what they have gone through, knowing that there is an entire system that is behind them. And, in a very, not, this is not a political statement, but you'd have to be living under a rock to understand that it's a very divided nation, right? Or seemingly divided nation. This is the one common ground we can all come together, right? If you live in America, you want to be free. You respect your freedoms and those who defend it. And that's the common ground we can all get behind and come together and just support these families.
So where are you guys located? It was started in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma by a Lieutenant Colonel F-16 pilot, not known for being excessively wealthy, and
right.
just sort of, just started reaching out. How did it grow? How did it develop?
So we are in a little town called Owasso, Oklahoma, is where our headquarters are, just outside of Tulsa. So Broken Arrow is another town that is connected to Tulsa, but we reside in Owasso. And how it got started. So Dan is, in addition to being a fighter pilot, he's also a PGA professional. Okay, played golf at the University of Kansas, and so he knows golf. And that's how he got started. His family had a golf course in Grand Haven, or has a golf course in Grand Haven, Michigan, and they ran an event there. And they earned, they probably, I don't know, it was like $6,700, for the first event, something like that. But it was something, right? And then it grew from there. And Dan reached out to the PGA of America and did a thing called Patriot Golf Day. And that was a program that happened on Labor Day. And for every golfer could add $1 to their green fees that day, and earned over $1 million that first year. Unbelievable, right? So that just started launching Dan into, you start meeting people and more people. Well, fighter pilots also like to drink beer, right? And he's like, you know what? My favorite beer is Budweiser. And he literally cold called Budweiser several times. And, and they get tons of nonprofits knocking on their door. But, we're in a 10-year relationship now with Budweiser. They've donated millions upon millions of dollars to this organization. And, every summer they launch their Budweiser brand, but it's red, white, and blue, folds logos on it, and they're in the big freedom packages, and just really exciting to have a brand like that. Everybody knows who Budweiser is.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Just incredibly amazing. And it grows organically from there. One relationship leads to another relationship. They go, hey, I heard about you guys. Tell me what you do again. And has just grown from there. We got amazing corporate partners, amazing individuals out there giving, incredible golf courses all across the nation who run events for us and help us in the fight.
So the main way that you guys have been able to raise money is with corporate sponsors and golf tournaments. And there's a lot of things. It's raising money, I know, as a nonprofit is exceptionally hard. So you guys have been doing really well. If somebody wants to get involved, how would they find one of these tournaments? How would they get involved, with one of these fundraising events?
Yeah, so the easiest way, if you're an individual out there and you're listening and you want to get in the fight with us, the easiest way to do that is go to foldsofhonor.org, okay, and click on our squadron section and join our squadron. It's a fighter pilot term. All fighter pilots are in a squadron. So what we're asking you to do is join the squadron of thousands of people, and your price point is $13 a month is what we're asking for. And that's less than your Netflix subscription out there. And what you're going to do is you're going to help us change a life. And that $13 a month compounded by thousands of people joining the fight with us is unbelievable synergy. And, you come in, you be part of the family. We keep you updated on everything the organization is doing. And a lot of you may be asking out there, well, 13, well, that's a really weird number. Why did you pick that one? If you look at the folded flag, it takes exactly 13 folds to bring it to that iconic triangle shape of freedom, that flag that is handed to that spouse or that father or mother at the burial of their loved one. And what's unique about our flag, when you look at it, you'll see 2 stars and 4 stars. When the burial flag is handed to the spouse, you'll see the 1, 3, and the 5 stars. Our logo was very intentional, okay, to show people that we've got your back. We're the backside of the flag. We're there to help you, stand alongside with you and your family. $13 a month, foldsofhonor.org. Join our squadron. It's super easy to do, and you'll be in the fight with us, and we'd love to have you there.
So if you also like to play golf, I know you guys do a lot of golf tournaments. What is the Hero 100 Golf Marathon.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So these are something I won't do because I'm 55 and I'd be broken if I played 100 holes of golf. But it's these folks who go out and they get people to sponsor themselves, and they go and they play 100 holes of golf. And when you initially look at that idea, and it certainly wasn't original with me, our golf team has been absolutely amazing. It is millions of dollars have come in as a result of this. And we don't care if you go out and you get pledges for, a total of $500 or $500,000. It's getting in the fight with us, and we love it. And we have a system that is there to help you, and people that are there to help you to get going and stuff. And you can visit our website and click on that section as well and learn everything you need to know about it.
So you guys also have chapters throughout the country. Unfortunately, none here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I was looking very closely. I was trying to find one. The nearest one, I think, is in North Carolina. What do these chapters do? What do they do? How do they operate? What exactly are they all about?
So it's a regionalized effort. So, if you look at a lot, of our chapters that have been around a long time, like in the Dallas area, Houston area, Kansas City, Chicago, in those type of big metropolitan areas, right? So it's a good regionalized effort to get local companies, golf courses, and all those things involved. And so they focus their fundraising restricted to that region, but probably 90% of it is focused in that region, and it has worked really, really well. Like if you take a look at our chapters, at the end of every year, whatever money they raise, they send it to Folds of Honor National, and they're our leading fundraisers. I mean, they were responsible for bringing almost $20 million in last year, which is unbelievable. And we like the localized effort too, because with a lot of these local businesses and everything else, we can restrict the donations to stay in that state or to stay in that town to help their hometown heroes, which is really cool connectivity. Because again, for us, yes, we want the money. We want to send these kids and spouses to school, but we want them to have a relationship with the community as well.
Way to, relationships are everything. I've learned that in life. No matter how well or how great your organization is or idea, if you don't have those personal connections, it's a lot harder to go and do those things. So I'm really glad that you guys have chapters everywhere. $20 million is a lot of money to raise in a year. That is quite amazing. So let's talk about the scholarships a little bit more, because it's not just for college. Sure. And I think that's a big distinction that you guys have that a lot of places don't. Right. And so you guys have two different kinds of scholarships, right?
We do. So we have what we call our Children's Fund and our Higher Education Fund. So let me talk about the Children's Fund first. So this is with our most severe cases. Okay. So, our severely disabled vets or, the loss of the military member. And what we do is, because a lot of times these families are, with the loss of the military member, maybe they're overseas or maybe they're living somewhere where they don't have family and stuff like that. They want to move back and get their kiddos into a smaller school context or stuff, or something that can, help the mom or help the dad, with, just care and feeding of the family and stuff like that. So they don't need help 10, 14 years from now. They need help now. And so we do help fund private school education for those families. Now, on the higher ed side of things, yes. So think anything college, we do. So if you want to go get your bachelor's, your master's, your PhD, we can do all of that. The thing I really, really enjoy too is technical schools, right? So if you're out there and like I'm in the middle of building a new house right now, and you come to very much appreciate the trades, right? Somebody that can actually come build your home and do the plumbing and do the electric and do all these things. And so we support that as well. So it's a very wide breadth. The goal here is whatever your dreams are, we want to help you achieve those.
So what are the requirements for the children or spouses to apply? Do they have to have like a 4.0 and a top tier?
No. So everything is based upon the service member. Okay. So when you go to apply, so if you're out there and you have a VA disability rating, you are eligible to apply for a Folds of Honor scholarship. A little bit more restrictive on the Children's Fund, but that's the baseline for it. And our scholarship system is an online application system, and it walks you through it. So we don't look at anything necessarily on a financial needs base. We're looking at it purely based upon the service of the military member and base eligibility on that. So everything is spelled out on our website. You go to foldsofhonor.org, check out our scholarship section. It'll walk you through everything there. And our goal all the time is to help 100% of these families, right? If you're in the military and you served, we want to help you, but we do need some sort of established VA disability rating. It's the best objective way that we can come up with to qualify folks.
So this is not a academic scholarship. This is very much a, hey, your father or mother are injured in the line of duty, and we're going to help you out.
That's right. I mean, it's in our tagline: honor their sacrifice, educate their legacy, and that's what we're doing. So those two things run parallel paths, and we're gonna honor that service member by educating their family.
So you must have, there's been thousands and thousands. I think last I heard it was like 35,000, probably 40,000 kids and spouses that have benefited. Is there any particular cases that pop up or relationships that were formed that you could tell us about?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. So I remember one that pops up in my mind, and I've been asked this question before, is when I first started at the Folds of Honor. So that was in October 2018, and I was with Lieutenant Colonel Dan, and we had some business in New York. And one of our recipients was going to meet us there. Dan was being interviewed on Fox News, and her name is Ashlyn McCain. And she lost her hero dad in Iraq, and so she's a Gold Star kid. And she and I had an opportunity to take a walk through Central Park. Dan had other business, so we were like, hey, let's go walk through Central Park. And our stories were so similar and stuff. And it was, when you're a Gold Star kid and you meet other Gold Star kids, and I say kid, I'm 55 years old now, but there's a common bond there. You're part of a really, really unfortunate club that nobody wants to be a member of. But to meet others and to walk with them through this, it's been really, really neat because I've been able to help her out in many other ways. She'll text me, and she's graduated now and doing amazing things. And so that is the one relationship that has really, really resonated with me and really hit home.
As a Gold Star child yourself, I'm sure that has a lot of resonance. I'm sure you have your own family, but at the same time, those bonds are there. There's things that you've experienced that she's experiencing that, well, you just can't replicate in many other ways, except if you've lived through it yourself and have some of those special insights. So that is, just heartwarming. It's hard, when you're looking at it from the outside in. I suppose looking at it from the inside out, it's a whole different perspective.
Yeah. And there's a healing process there, right? The people that can understand what you've been through are people who have been through similar things. And, just being able to talk about it and especially for me now as a veteran and when I speak and I tell my story and stuff like that, it's helpful to the other families and stuff out there. And it's helpful, to me as a veteran.
If there's one thing you wanted to leave us with, what would you want to let everybody know about Folds of Honor?
Wow, that is a great question. The need is great. Okay, so there's thousands of families out there that we haven't reached yet that we need to reach. So help us tell our story. Okay, join us in the fight at $13 a month, and be confident that that we are great stewards of your money. So we operate at 91 cents on the dollar. And if you've checked out any other nonprofits out there, that is a very, very difficult thing to maintain. So I may have a fancy title as a chief growth officer, but we stay lean and mean. We stay high speed, low drag, to use a fighter pilot term. And we take this money and we put it in the places where our donors expect it to go. And that's, in the school system to help these families out. And, if you could take that away, and it's not just the dollar figures. It's not just that we are good fiduciaries of the money, but what we're doing with this money is creating change for America, and it's creating a common bond with people that they may have not had before. And it's really, really exciting. And we'd love for you to get in the fight with us.
They have some of the best financials. You can go on the website. It's foldsofhonor.org. It's super easy to find. Click on financials. They are doing the right things with the money that is donated. They're a 4-star charity navigator. They've got the platinum seal of transparency. they've been doing the right things. They're not just spending it on, high salaries and all those other things. They're taking the money and getting it to the families of the veterans. So I'm super impressed with that. There's a lot of other organizations. I'm not going to mention any, but they've had some ups and downs with, financials. Folds of Honor has been doing the right things the whole time. So go check them out. Colonel Nick, before I let you go, I always ask, what should I have asked you about but didn't?
That's a really, really good question. How about a quick little teaser? Maybe ask me a question like, hey, what does the future look like for the Folds of Honor? So what I'll tell your audience is stay tuned on 9/11. Okay, so September 11th, which is an iconic date in American history for a lot of obvious reasons. There's a really big announcement coming. Can't share with you what it is right now, but, check out our website that day and it'll be very, very obvious what's going on. And we're going to have an even greater impact in America.
I am so impressed with you and your organization. Thank you so much for coming on Coming Home Well and sharing with us all the details about Folds of Honor. Folks, if you're at all interested in learning about what they do, how they do it, or somebody that might be interested or eligible for one of the scholarships, these things are not small potatoes. Go check them out, foldsofhonor.org. Excellent website, super easy to navigate. You'll be able to find everything you probably want to know. And if you have any questions, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so again, at foldsofhonor.org, go to the website and there's a contact us button. It'll get you directly to our team and they will respond within the day.
Colonel Nick, thank you so much for joining us on Coming Home Well and representing Folds of Honor as the Chief Growth Officer. You guys are doing some fantastic work, and I super appreciate it on behalf of all the other veterans out here.
Awesome. Tyler, big salute to you and your audience. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us this week on Coming Home Well with Dr. Tyler Piron. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and a review. Follow us on Instagram at ComingHomeWell_BTS or on Twitter at ComingHomeWell. Thanks again. And until all are home and all are well, this is Coming Home Well.